Files. Hello, and welcome to Bigfoot Collectors Club Listener Files number 2. I'm your host, Michael McMillan, and with me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
Hey, Bryce.
Hey.
Welcome back to the clubhouse.
Thanks, man.
It's
Good
been
to
a
be
while.
Back. I know. Had a little accident there, but I'm all much better now, thanks.
Well, that's good. We posted the picture of you
with my broken
a couple weeks
heel,
back
yes.
with your heel, and we'll here at Bigfoot headquarters, we're gonna make sure that you get all the love and tenderness you need.
Man, everybody's been so great. I appreciate all the well wishes. And,
so what happened for the listeners? You don't have to go in the whole thing,
man,
but
just trying to be a ninja, jumped over the back fence, and I landed on a rock or something, or I think it might have been a tree seed, which pierced the skin of my heel, puncturing my heel bone and shattering it into a bag of dust, as the doctors like to say. One doctor, but so there's about like 15 extra bones floating around in my heel.
I think you need to get your money back from your sensei.
I know.
This is terrible ninja training.
I know. I really did myself in. But,
and you were just trying to garden in the backyard and have a nice afternoon.
Yeah, no, I was chilling, and one dumb mistake, and you can be holed up in your bedroom for longer than you probably want to be.
Sounds like a good time to podcast.
Yeah, no,
and
I'm glad to be here.
Read some new stuff.
No, I have been. You brought me Graham Hancock's Supernatural.
One of my all-time favorites.
Dude, so good.
You liking it? Have you gotten to the part where the school children see all the gnomes drive around in little cars?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, the stuff is so wild in there. And yeah, I have.
That is like one of my favorites. Like, there's some British school children that are hanging out on a playground, and they all claim to have seen, and they all shared this account or witnessed this these little men drive up in little Shriner cars and drive around, but they were like little gnome creatures.
Right.
Yeah,
which makes you wonder. I mean, kids only know so much in their purview, so maybe this is how they're interpreting what they saw. I mean, kids know about clowns and fairies and gnomes and stuff. I mean, maybe that's just how their mind interpreted what they were seeing. I mean, who knows?
It's very strange.
There's so many strange stories with different details and different weird stuff that's just like crazy.
I've been reading a book that's got some really good high strangeness in it called Monsters Among Us by Linda S. Godfrey.
Yes.
And part of the cool thing about doing the show is like I'm actually getting back into reading this stuff. I mean, I've obviously been a fan for a while, but it's been up until this podcast, it's like I'd kind of taken a break from really reading a lot of these books. So I'm getting back into it. But this one's cool. This is like all up your alley because it's all about portals and shadow creatures, and she's really into dogmen, which I've always kind of been
it's a salty word.
I'm a bit of a snob. I'm like I believe in Bigfoot, but if you're talking about like a werewolf creature, I'm like, okay, you've lost me now.
I know. We were on the car ride over, and Michael was like, "That's Universal Studios territory, monsters. We don't try and get in on that." And it's like so true.
But there's some cases in here where you're reading about it and you're
it's
like,
not the werewolf.
It's not the werewolf. It's more like a shadow creature,
like a lone wolf shadow creature roaming the woods.
Well, and she kicks around this idea that you brought up way back when we were talking about Skinwalker, that a lot of these cases, there are instances of strange creatures, strange lights, and things possibly crossing over from other dimensions into our reality.
Yeah.
And that a lot of these things we see might come from somewhere else, another realm. And again, going back to the origin of this podcast, I've suddenly realized that I really am doing this show, I think, to kind of unpack that thing that I saw staring in my window 2 years ago.
We're just trying to figure all this stuff out, And listen, what I love about dogmen, or whatever you want to call it, wolf man, is it's unlike Bigfoot, it seems very shamanistic, And what I mean by that is like at Skinwalker Ranch, the hunt for the Skinwalker, they say it's an old native shaman who has crossed over into the dark or the underworld and has never been fully satiated with
there's a lot of this stuff there. They think there's like dark magic maybe attached, but but they're also, I don't know, it's this stuff is just so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
What do you think, special guest?
Well, special guest. We have with us today, we have a very fan favorite has returned to answer some listener mail with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Kevin Kirkpatrick here.
Woo!
Yeah.
Hi, Kevin.
I was waiting for my intro.
Well, here it is. And also sitting in with us, we have Riley Bray, our sound engineer, and
Yep.
I mean, basically producer at this point.
Yeah,
I'd say
absolutely.
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
I mean,
risen the ranks.
Yeah.
I mean, you've always been
Voice of reason.
voice of reason.
Hold
Riley
on,
Bray.
guys.
Yeah, that's true. Kevin, how have you been? How's your life been since you were last on the show? How's it changed your life? Are people coming up to you now and wanting to know more about your paranormal experiences as a child in Texas, encountering strange devil Jesuses?
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I can't
Any,
travel or go to the store or anything.
Any backlash from the religious right?
No, but here's something.
Okay, let's hear
So
it.
I just moved into a house that I think has some bad juju.
Oh no.
Really?
And I asked you, Michael McMillan,
Yeah.
for
Donna
if
Lynn
you-
Champlin.
Yes. And now I'm not going to say anything bad about her.
Did you text her?
I'm not saying anything bad about her. I'm just saying you did terrible matchmaking.
Oh no.
Because
That's like bringing out the heavy guns first, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. Because she was so nice and she sent me her like do this and like go to this part of the house and it was this really great detailed instructions. But it was heavily Christian. Like
oh yeah.
heavily
She's not
like
Christian at all.
I mean it was all about it was Catholic and making the cross sign and doing all
Well,
this stuff.
but-
and when I asked her about it, she went pretty radio silent. So I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I'd say that a lot of that ritual stuff, I think it's just there's a lot of that stuff that just kind of works across the board. It doesn't have to be specifically.
Kevin, you should have called me.
When
I
I'm supposed to
would've-
walk into a corner of a house and make that cross, and it's going to feel weird, and I don't want to do anything that feels weird because it feels fake.
Do you need me-
also,
do you need me to come
my
over?
My partner's Jewish.
I would have just told you to
Well,
burn
no.
some sage.
Do you need me to, Kevin? Do you need me to come over and do it? I have training in the Presbyterian Church. I went.
I'll just have my minister come over.
Yeah.
It's
Why don't
fine.
I come? I'll come do it. I don't.
No, I think it's great, but I firmly. This is my whole thing. Is I firmly believe in order to kill this juju,
Wait a minute.
you have to do something authentic.
That's
rather
right.
than
That's not.
something that's because if I go around
First of
like
all, Kevin,
asking
that's not-
Jesus and doing the cross sign, I
That's not
sort of
you.
I'm sort of undecided as to whether the cross means anything to me
Yeah,
in
that's
my
not
adult
you.
life. So
You also have to remember that the cross existed long before
Jesus and the crucifixion.
the iconography that we. And first of all, look, I think here's the thing: some of this stuff, no matter your belief, these things are taught because they're taught down through certain traditions. There might be. It's through the avenue of the iconography of the Christian church. If you're not comfortable with that, then there are other. The same work can come from through a different line of method and technique. I just think that Donna Lynn's passing on what she learned.
Yeah.
But she's a self-proclaimed Wiccan, and she kind of left the
yeah,
Catholic
I was hoping
Church.
for some cool Wiccan stuff. And
But
I
a
got,
lot,
like,
but a lot of the Wiccan
I
stuff.
got Pam from the Presbyterian
Yeah,
Church
no, but-
telling me
Goat's
what
blood
to
on
do.
the door.
A lot of the Wiccan stuff comes from Western iconography, so a lot of that stuff is still connected to crosses and.
Oh well, she didn't explain that.
Well,
it's not her job to.
I
is
mean,
it?
I'm talking out my ass.
I'm a
here,
stranger.
Too,
No,
but
there's a lot of pagan
yeah.
iconography and ritual that got absorbed by the church
Right.
and then it goes back and forth.
There's
you know,
only
so-
so many symbols you got to work with. You got the circle,
You
the
have
mandala,
just a
you
few
got the
lines,
cross, and the
Kevin.
triangle.
You only
which
have a
is-
couple lines to work with on a piece of paper.
Maybe just swap the cross for a pentagram.
I love
and
though
you're
that you
good to
moved
go.
in and
Yeah,
you were like,
actually, but
I feel I should bring in Donna
But
Lynn Chaplin.
here's
Just why I
but
moved-
here's the
just
thing.
why I
So
moved.
like I've dabbled a little bit in. Here's a big reveal. I have dabbled in the past a little bit with like chaos magic, and part of the theory behind chaos magic is you can substitute whatever works for you for that. So if there's a symbol that is strong for you, Kevin, that you're like, I feel uncomfortable with using this iconography, you could take something like. You could go and make the
Your
symbol,
teddy bear.
or yeah, you could use your teddy bear. You could use, like you can replace the cross with the Superman shield or the Batman logo if you want
Absolutely.
to.
Why not?
It's just putting forth an intention
That's
of
right.
something that is traditionally perceived to be a protective symbol.
It's a
And if that
metaphor.
symbol is not protective for you, come up with the symbol, your own symbol that holds a protective meaning.
It's a
And use
gesture.
that.
It's a symbol. You know, it's a metaphor. It doesn't mean anything, but it means a lot. You know, and it can be personal to you.
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, that's very interesting stuff. Good luck with all that.
Yeah, I'm sorry that ghost is coming after you. Wait, also,
I wish they could see the look on Bryce's face. I feel like I just got like pushed off of a cliff by him. Good luck with that. And he looked at me like,
shove.
bye.
I'm sure you're fine. I really do.
But
you know?
we're ignoring the big question in the room, which is what's going on in the house that's making you feel like there's bad stuff.
Nothing spooky yet.
that's good.
I'll keep you
Okay, well then
posted.
why are you afraid?
Just because everything keeps breaking.
Okay.
Like we moved into a house that was supposed to be ready, and it's all a facade of readiness, and it's got plumbing and problems, and this problem and that problem.
I think that maybe the bad juju is the result of the guy who flipped the house.
Yeah, it is. But I want to get rid of his stink.
Yeah. You may just need a good handyman, and in that case, I have a great guy.
I have a guy.
Listen,
We're-
I will
we're
also.
close.
I do want to. So I am volunteering. I will come over and do this stuff for you based on
I have a
Donovan's.
little kit that someone gave me
Great.
with like
I
the
will-
sage.
I will
and
come
the,
What
do
he
it.
means
I
is
will
we'll
come
do an
do it.
episode at your house if you'll let.
I'll come do it. I mean, I'll come do it. I can do it.
Yeah.
I will do it for you. I'm not embarrassed to do any of that stuff.
Mhm.
I would like to see all that. That would. Be
Let's do
great.
it.
Okay, great.
This sounds like a very special episode right
Let's
here.
get-
Well,
be a
you know
pleasure.
what? We've been discussing starting a Patreon for the show.
Yeah, that was right.
And
What does that
maybe,
mean?
well, Patreon is a way that you can give a little money to the show. Because here's the truth. I mean,
Wait, are you
we
asking
do this.
me for money now?
Kevin, can you
We
give me a
will.
little money for the show, please?
That's why we brought you here, actually.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we
We
does
do this because
co-
we love it. This
It's
is
not a
money out of
lot,
our
but it does
pocket, you
cost
know?
us money to put this show up a little bit. So we're looking at creative ways that we can get more listeners involved and start a Patreon. Is you can go to, it's a website where you can donate money to a project or a show. It's kind of
Yeah.
like Kickstarter. It's kind of like a
Well,
crowd.
what's fun
But
about
it's
that is
more of a like subscription service. So basically, what we're discussing, and listeners, email us at BigfootCollectorsClub at gmail.com and let us know what you guys would be into. But basically, what we're thinking, and we're just thinking about this right now.
And we have been thinking about.
We've been
this.
thinking about a lot of stuff. Not a lot of actions happening, but starting up a little Patreon where you will get for like $1 a month or just a small amount, you'll get early access to the shows, and then we'll kick it up maybe for $5 a month. You'll get all of our shows a day early, plus some bonus content.
And I'm cooking up a real good special episode that I think would be so unique, and that would be probably maybe privy to our Patreon customers only.
So we're basically thinking about putting something together that would cost maybe the cost of a cup of coffee.
Sure.
And obviously, in a Patreon, you can kind of donate whatever you want.
And
but,
if you don't want to, you get to still listen anyway. Who
and
gives
the
a
show
fuck?
won't change.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we just like you a little less because you're not helping out. That's all.
That's not true at all.
Fine.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah, we don't give a shit.
That's it.
And for $5,000, you get to make love
I'll
to the
come
Bigfoot
over there and
they
blow
have,
you.
they have caught over the weekend.
We'll talk about that
It's
later.
a man in a gorilla costume.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. All right, let's get to some of these emails. We've had you guys writing in, and we're super excited. We brought Kevin in today to help. Because Kevin, you really were a fan favorite. I've heard a lot of positive response about your episode.
too.
Episode 5,
Oh, I'm
the
blushing.
Devil's Garage Sale. So we want your take on some of these emails. So I'll start. This one is from Linda. And she says, "Hi, I'm a big fan of your podcast. I love anything that involves the great beyond and possibilities. Plus, it's very funny. Good stuff. Thanks. I just wanted to read a compliment. That's it. Next
Done.
email.
Moving on. Next.
Linda says, I had a thing happen to me. I was driving home from the suburbs. Oh, sorry. The Subdudes concert in the late 90s. I thought she misspelled suburbs, but joke's on me. I wasn't that cool in the late 90s. Does anybody know the Subdudes?
No.
Oh,
It's cooler than all
we'll
of us.
find it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Email us at BigfootCollectorsClub@gmail.com with all your Subdudes trivia. I was the designated driver and was sober all night. Sure. On the way home, I live in Saratoga Springs, which is an hour and a half away. I saw 3 little girls in white dresses. They were on the side of the road, and I was the only car on the road. It was late at night, and it looked as if they were hailing a cab. I instantly freaked out and slammed on my brakes. As my car halted to a stop, it passed them by. Okay, so as you're slowing down, you pass them. When I looked in my rearview mirror and turned around to see them, they were gone. But my friend saw them in the rearview lights and said they were holding out lanterns that were glowing.
Weird.
She also said they disappeared after she saw them. We both saw the same thing, and it made no sense. I'm a very rational and somewhat skeptical person. I come from a super normal and functional family. My point is, I'm not crazy. No one's calling you crazy, Linda.
Well, hold on. I might.
I've been wondering how that could have happened ever since it did happen. I've Googled the heck out of that area to see if 3 little girls went missing. I try to find a scientific explanation, but I can't. Anyway, that's my story. I'm Linda.
Awesome. I love how. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I think in general, my mind immediately goes to she didn't fully stop when there's 3 little girls on the side of the road. Like, first, just fully come to a stop.
Right.
Not just do a slow drive by trying to figure out what kinds of ghosts they are. Like, first order of business would be stop the car and see if they're okay.
They might
And
say something.
things do tend to disappear in your rearview mirror when you're still moving.
Problem solved.
She said she came to a complete stop, but as she was slowing down, she passed them before the car came to a stop. And then when she
Safe stopping
stopped,
distance.
to turn around, they were gone.
Okay.
However, that is fantastic advice in general.
I don't know if I'd stop for 3 ghostly aspirations on the side of the road, and ask them what the fuck they want. Nope, gotta go. I'm somewhere to be.
Fair.
I like that they were holding lanterns and trying to hail a cab.
Yeah.
What era
about
were
this?
these girls from?
What about this?
They could have been trying to hail a
buggy?
horse-drawn buggy.
What's so interesting, though, is that she's drawn into this story now. Like, she's on the internet researching the area, researching girls. It's like, it's so interesting that just how whatever they say, and I'm just pulling at strings here, but they sort of draw you into whatever story or whatever is trying to get
They
out.
being
And
the little ghost girls.
Or yeah, exactly. You take an interest in what the heck you saw. Like you just said here, aren't we all just trying to figure out what we've seen or what we saw? And in a sense, you're trying to rationalize this in an irrational world, really.
The thing that jumps out at me in this letter too is that I swear I'm not crazy. I wasn't drunk. I was sober, blah, blah, blah. There's still such a stigma that follows people around who have seen stuff. They're scared of. This is why when people go, they're doing it for attention. Most people don't want to tell these stories because they look society.
Well, maybe if they
thinks they're
weren't so
nuts.
ostracized, maybe they wouldn't jump into the research so heartily. They'd be like, "Oh, society accepts that I saw 3 ghosts. Moving on." But they're like, "No, I'm not crazy. I know what I saw. I looked it up. Here's some things I found."
Now, look, it's tough because sometimes people are crazy and see shit.
Yeah, there's
that's
that
not
too.
there. So,
That's right.
but we
Well,
believe you, Linda.
What about the idea of time not being as linear as we think?
Fucking
and
right.
And that sometimes you're seeing an imprint, just like an imprint of another time, maybe in that place where that freeway is now.
Well, sure.
There were 3 little girls.
Why does time have to go like a river, forward and back? Why can't it go up and down?
Well,
You know what I
and
mean?
if
Why? So you could circle back and
No,
not jump on that
Well,
seed.
that's so that there's no time really. It's all just the present moment. You know what I mean? It's all just one
or
part
you
of
think if
one
you think of
thing.
time as being a construct,
Sure.
like
Which it is, a man-made construct.
a book. A book
know?
has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah.
And when you read through a book, beginning to end, when the book's over, the book doesn't disappear. You can then jump around to any page in the book. You can read it in any order that you want. And I tend to think that that's kind of like the reality that we live in. We're living in a crystallized kind of timeline where because we are humans and because of the way that this is a longer story, but we perceive time linearly. But perhaps when we die, we leave the book and we're outside of the book.
Yeah.
And then we can review the whole big picture, beginning from the Big Bang to the end of the universe.
Yeah.
So in some sense, everything that's happened has already happened, and everything
It's a
that will
theory.
happen has happened.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's possible that we could drive through a little time warp every now and then, or sometimes the time streams intersect, and maybe those little girls weren't ghosts, but they were actual little girls that they saw through a window, some sort of time window,
Sure.
and caught a little snippet of 1898.
I mean, nobody knows.
Nobody
knows.
knows.
Like,
Guys?
I like in that you mentioned your perception of it, because if we've based our idea of what was visible just by what we can see of the visible spectrum, then we'd be ignoring a whole side of it that's not there. Same thing with sound,
Yeah, that's
we
right.
only hear a small
God,
section
this
of
guy
sound.
always talks about sound.
No, but it's very true.
Every
Those
time he's
are-
always
yeah.
talking about
But
sound.
like rats, for instance, are communicating up at like 50K. Like we only hear up to 20K. So we assume it's not there, but it is there. So it's the same thing with time where, we have a limited perception of it, but that doesn't mean that there's not other things extending beyond.
Speaking of limited perception, I was just reading that they have discovered within like the orc and the humpback whale's song that it is so dense in communication that there is more units of communication there than there are in Homer's Iliad. And that's in like, 30 seconds of musical whale instrumentation.
I read a fact a long time. This is like one of those kid facts that I read that always stuck with me. That it's something like the average word in the human language has like 2 to 3 syllables, maybe, and that when they've been able, what they can discern from dolphins' language, their average quote unquote word has 20 syllables. In
Right.
it.
Same
So
same
there's
exact
like these
principle.
super huge, complex methods of communicating.
And we
to
just
one
think they're
another.
just like we were fucking supposed to swim on their fucking dorsal fin. Like that's what they were put on Earth for us to do.
So
Kevin-
dolphins are like an Italian mother. They're like mouthy, non-efficient communication.
That's basically it. Well, let's jump into another one here. I got one from Kate where she says, "Dear Michael and Bryce, I've been listening to the podcast and been really enjoying it. You called out an APB for weird encounters and supernatural experiences, and I thought I'd share one with you guys. While I've had a lot of weird, unexplainable experiences in my life, this is one of my favorites. A few years ago, my husband and I were staying in Savannah, Georgia. It's considered to be one of the most haunted cities in America, though I'm totally sure how one would get that title. Not sure how one would get that title. And lots of the tourism kind of plays up that
I
rep.
think a lot of ghosts show up. That's how you get the titles.
Yeah.
People
Well,
see a lot
or
of
they
ghosts.
make a lot of money on the tourism
That's
industry.
true.
We were staying at a bed and breakfast that likes to boast the supernatural residents. See, there you go. And while I'm something of a believer, my husband is solidly the Scully to my Mulder. I had no expectations, however, of experiencing anything in this hotel, but one afternoon while we were resting up before dinner with my husband napping and me curled up with a book, I suddenly heard the sound of running in the hallway. It sounded like lighter footsteps, like, children running past our door and playing. Now, this bed and breakfast does not allow children, my kind of place, she says, so this was definitely out of the ordinary. I tried to shake my husband awake, but of course, the running outside our door stopped before he fully woke up. He didn't hear anything. As we were leaving the hotel to go out for the evening, I asked the evening concierge if there were any, kids staying there. Rules be damned. She said no. And when I told her I could have sworn I heard kids running outside the room, she said, well, maybe it was just the housekeeping staff. I'm not so sure the housekeeping staff
Little children
would have been.
They had a lot of coffee this morning,
Right.
and they are just running up and down the hall.
Or they
Right.
just hired children to do all the labor around the.
Well, that's what she says. I'm not sure the housekeeping staff would have been that spry in their movements. I did a bit of research, and turns out that sounds of ghostly children are quite common at this B&B. While I have no witnesses to corroborate my story, ain't that how it always is? I swear I definitely experienced something spooky that day. And we're going back at the end of January. So who knows if I will have more stories to share after that. Love the podcast. Thanks for all the weird, creepy stories. Say hi to Kevin for me. Kate. Just kidding. I added that last part.
Why is Bryce so mean to me today?
He was gonna hang the rest of his day on that.
But the running, the crawling, the scratching, the running above the attic, the floor, the outside the hallway.
First of all, I would like to say Kate sounds like one tough customer.
yeah.
She's got very high standards. She does not want to see or hear children anywhere around her. She and her serious husband
Right.
are on a vacation, and they want it to be
Right.
No, thank you on the violent sounds of children living. I had two thoughts on this when I heard it. What's her name?
Kate.
Kate.
Kate from I'm not sure she says where, but yeah.
One is just this is what my brain does, and so forgive me, and this will take 8 seconds. But why do we say curled up with a book? As soon as she said that, I was like, who reads a book in a ball?
Oh yeah, I have been with my foot. I got
Curled into a ball reading a book?
Maybe not curled.
I am someone who tends to tuck their knees up under their chin when they sit in a chair, but I tend not to read that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how far is Sarasota Springs from Savannah? Because those three girls with the lanterns could have been escaped
Hitchhiking, yeah.
motel slave
I
children.
think they couldn't be. I mean, they could be further away, but that's a lot of miles.
How fun would that be if all the stories sort of like linked up and you could map it out and you're like, I've got it, and it all just made sense.
Today we learn.
Yeah,
that
wouldn't
it's
that be
all
cool?
connected.
It's all. We are discovering the meta meaning.
Yeah.
The meta narrative
Yeah.
behind all of these.
That would be so
I
amazing.
think it involves portals.
It would have to.
Okay.
I want to go to Savannah, and I've heard that. I think that stuff's fun.
I know.
Yeah. Also, this
what was
just
that
makes me
movie?
think like we gotta, Kevin. If you don't get that demon out of your house, just open a haunted bed and breakfast. You make a lot of money.
See, blessing into a curse into a blessing. Not that it's a curse, Kevin. You're fine. I'm pretty sure you're fine.
Yeah, good
Just
luck with
watch
that.
out.
I don't know how interesting it will be for people to come pay money to stay at my house so that they can see that the plumbing doesn't work.
Right? He's like, there's nothing spooky. The plumbing won't work, and I'm having trouble with this cupboard door.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, Kate, and we're picking on you a little bit. We're just having fun, but I think she just likes to complain. That's what I think it's really. She's just someone who likes to complain.
Well, here's another person saying, I'm a rational person. Somebody dismisses it again. Oh, must be the maid staff. How often, if not too often, do people just be like, oh, well, it must have been this? Like, we're all just fucking crazy and we don't understand our senses.
Right.
Like, you know, it's so minimalized. It's so, like, put into a closet. It's so just, like, shunned and put away. And, like, everybody likes their things with neat, tight little packages with a bow on it. Well, you know, sometimes there's fucking ghostly kids running around your hallway. You know? That's what you heard because that's what it was.
Also, I'm not kidding. I'm a grown ass man, and within the last 2 years, I've run up and down hotel hallways and knocked on people's doors and ran and all kinds of stuff. When I'm like coming back to the hotel, a little tipsy with some friends, and like
You're absolutely right. Listen, this is a practical world too. We got to understand that.
Kevin,
you
are
know?
you telling us you moonlight as a hotel ghoul?
I do. It's the most fun thing to do. It just you get like the church giggles from it. You know?
Right,
Just, like,
right.
you can't handle. How
Now
funny
wait a
it
minute.
is.
I thought you were not a religious man.
Well, there's
It all goes back to religion for me. It's a love-hate.
What if the girls? I heard some church giggles and some running feet, and then I just knock on my door and there's no one there.
Kate, we just figured it out. It was old Kevy.
It was Kevy. Yep.
All right, this one's from Brandon, and I know Brandon. Shout out to Brandon. Thanks for writing in. Brandon says, this story was told to me from my grandfather, a man that rarely joked and honestly got emotional when he told me this. So this is good. This is a sad old man's story. A little backstory. I grew up in in a family of hunters. My grandfather had spent more time in the woods than any of them, out of all of them, the most, mostly hunting bears all over North America. On this particular bear hunting trip in Northern California, the 7 dogs he was using to track... I mean, I already have so many questions.
Wow.
To track bears had been on the chase of something for nearly 15 hours and wouldn't give up.
Wow.
They had been chasing something through the woods nearly all day, and now it was about 10 p.m. and fully dark. Finally, my grandfather caught up to his hound's location and suspected they had been chasing a group of deer because deer run forever, whereas a bear eventually tires and climbs a tree, and the dogs hold guard at the bottom of the tree until the hunter hikes to them and either pulls the dogs away or shoots the bear in the face.
I didn't know that.
No, he says kills the bear.
Right.
But,
That's not good.
I mean, I don't like killing animals.
Yeah, me neither.
I just like eating them. Anyway, as my grandfather gets within a few hundred yards of the howling dogs, all at once the dogs go completely silent. My grandfather, thinking they had begun to chase their prey once more, he gets frustrated and takes a rest on a fallen log in the pitch-black woods. A few moments pass, and then he hears something running through the brush coming from the direction he last heard the dogs. My grandfather shines his light towards the running animal, expecting to see the deer they had been chasing, but instead finds one of his most seasoned dogs running like crazy with its tail between its legs. Now, this particular dog was never afraid of anything, even known to attack full-grown bears without fear. The dog ran straight towards my grandfather and passed him without hesitation, heading back towards the road. Before my grandfather could comprehend why his dog was so afraid, he said an intense, musky smell he described as wet, burnt hair filled the air so much that it almost made him gag. At this point, 2 more of his dogs ran out of the woods, tail between their legs and whining. He called out to the dogs as they passed him, but they just kept course for the road. About 30 seconds after his yell for the dogs, he heard a noise that he described sounding like a woman's scream, but through a megaphone and lasting for almost 35 to 40 seconds.
Oh, weird.
Towards the end of the scream, it turned into a deep growl. He immediately ran from the area, heading back to his truck. And when he arrived at the truck, 4 of the 7 dogs were cowering under the vehicle, extremely terrified. My grandfather drove around the area trying to find the rest of his dogs for about an hour, eventually coming upon 2 of them about a mile away. He never found the last dog.
Oh, no.
I know. That's why I would get
Bigfoot's
emotional
got
if
a
I told
pet.
the story. And once he got home and inspected the dogs closer in the night, he said a few of them had a greasy substance around their necks and ears that smelled like the smell had encountered in the woods.
Weird.
And one of them had blood on its front legs from its paw to its torso, but was not cut or injured anywhere else. My grandfather doesn't believe in ghosts or aliens, but is positive that whatever was in the woods that night was not a normal animal and was most likely some form of Sasquatch.
I agree. That's amazing.
He said, sorry, this one was a little long. I have another story about the Sasquatch from the same woods, actually, but I'll save it for when I have more time. Oh,
when you have
Brandon,
2 stories,
Oh,
it
when
starts
you have,
to get suspicious.
You know what? When you've seen Bigfoot twice,
Yeah.
we start to doubt it. Brandon, that was a rad story.
Yeah,
That's classic Bigfoot stuff. The smell,
Yeah.
the cry,
Yeah.
the scream.
So, oh wait, Bigfoot. I didn't know this has a high pitched.
Yeah. A lot of people record this like, they can hear echoing through the forest. You can hear. People have supposedly recorded it, and you can hear recordings of them.
Well, you go to the zoo and you watch the monkeys
See
or
if
the
I find it.
orangutans and those sounds they make with those big, bulbous throat sacs, whoop whoop, or whatever they can do all kinds of shit. I'm, just elaborating, but yeah, that's that sounds definitely like a Bigfoot to me. And there's also parallels with dogs running away, not just from Bigfoot, but from supernatural things too. Skinwalker Ranch, that Tom Gordon, the ranch owner, his dogs were all killed chasing an orb. 3 of his best friends, his dogs, were mutilated and turned to viscous.
Yay.
And so that's shit that there's the
Okay, here's the
dogs.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, the dogs.
Here's a Bigfoot cry. I don't know. This
Oh,
no.
if you ring my phone, I've got Ron Bull's Bigfoot howl on as my ring.
Really?
Which is
Just gonna see if I
that's
can get one.
embarrassing. That's just, I'm sorry.
Here, let's see.
Also, that guy's grandpa is hardcore.
No.
Yeah, I know.
My grandpa's a dentist.
Right. I love
This
that.
dude's got 7 dogs.
7
and is
dogs
hunting
killing
bears. In the
bears.
woods.
I know.
Jesus.
I'll never be a man.
If I, God,
We're
Your
too
friend
late.
Brandon was raised on bear meat. Like,
Yeah.
you'd
let's
think
talk
that bear
about
would
that.
know
Can we
that it
acknowledge
could
that
fuck
part of
up
the
all
story?
7 dogs, but it's just like, what, afraid of their bark or something, like, just like, take on the 7 hounds, why don't you, bear?
Yeah, but then he's gonna get injured in the process.
Right.
And see, these wild animals aren't like us. They can't go to the hospital and get that
You're right. But yeah, you're right.
get that foot.
Because they're probably
treated.
biting at the ankle and he's swatting at one and fuck my ankle. And now, yeah, you're right. I got to go to a hospital and a doctor. If you're a bear, you're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway. That's a wild story. All right, I'll jump in here.
All
I
right,
think I've
yeah.
got
Sorry, I
another
was
one.
trying to find a comprehensive. I mean, these
So this is another one. This
Bigfoot
one's-
hunters, you guys gotta edit some of these videos down a little bit.
This one is
Keep up the good work.
Ghostly Grandma from Joy, and we've done another grandma ghost story.
Yeah,
which is-
this is another one.
I think they're always reaching out, these grandparents. I didn't really get to know my grandparents on either side, which is sad to think about now. When I was a kid, I took it all for granted and didn't think much of it. I didn't visit her much, but I do remember the stories that she would tell when I did see her. Anyway, I knew that my grandma, my dad's mom, was in a nursing home, but I didn't know why or what the story was. Well, when I was in junior high, I was sitting in my room watching a baseball game, and I suddenly got this cold chill run up my spine. It was the weirdest sensation, not like a draft in my room or anything like that. This cold feeling, it lingered for a moment. And when I got back to my senses, I suddenly felt super uneasy. So I ran out of my room. My dad, who had been in his room, bless you, watching TV, ran out of their bedroom at the same time, right? We ran into each other in the hallway. We didn't really know what was going on, but both of us felt the exact same thing. It was the weirdest thing because our house was fairly new, so it's not like we had creaky boards or drafts out of nowhere. Not seconds later, the phone rang. It was the nursing home, or maybe one of my uncles or aunts, I don't remember. They were calling because my grandma had just passed away from a stroke. I remember sitting with my dad in his room with baseball on in the background, and we just sat there for a while and talked about Grandma and how Dad thinks that this was her way of giving us a hug goodbye. Last thing, I was wondering if you had merch or an online store or anything. This is a great segue. I'm starting to collect patches and shirts from my favorite podcasts, and I'd love to get my hands on a BCC one. Well, it's
I'll tell
funny you
what,
mention.
We're talking about it.
Yeah, we love that company. We don't have anything right now, but you can go to a company called Maiden Voyage, and they make the best supernatural cryptid patches around. So why would we try to do anything like that?
And go on. You'll find if you go to our Instagram feed, we follow a ton of artists. I'm finding more people that do a lot of cool cryptid stuff.
Yeah.
But we are actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but my friend Neil McLean, shout out Neil, is painting us a new album cover for the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. He's doing it part-time, and he's animating some other stuff right now, so he's busy. But I've seen a little bit of the mock-up coming. It looks really cool.
Oh, I
and
love that.
That's something that I think we could get. We have some T-shirt and some patch ideas.
What we've seemed to have discovered is, this community of our Bigfoot listeners and stuff. They're all artists. They're all like, in their own way. They're craftsmen and artisans, and they like working with, their hands. And
there's so many cool artists we've discovered doing the show.
Crafts and stuff. And so I just shout out to all you guys who are making shit. That's cool.
Should we talk about Joy?
Please.
Yes, that was Joy. Ghostly Grandma.
I think that stuff. I feel like that stuff happens.
Yeah,
all the time.
I think so too.
I do think Joy has remained the thoughtless sociopath that she was as a child.
Yeah,
because she was basically like, I just never paid attention to any family member, and that why Grandma came to visit her.
Dude,
the one person that had iced her out.
It takes one coming from beyond to be like, finally,
really does.
talk.
And then Joy's like, this beautiful goodbye. Anyway, my shopping interests. She's still that teenage girl that doesn't give a fuck about Grandma.
Right. Maybe I read that too fast. You're absolutely right. It's so funny. Yeah, that's crazy. It's like, my dad has been struggling with something, the big C, and it has forced me I'm texting him every day now, and I never did that. We would talk like once a month or something like that. And it's just like, I've made the decision that for every day more he's going to be on this earth, I'm just going to make sure that I talk to him that day. And it's like, what's a fucking second out of my time, and I'll only do it when I think of him, so it happens right away. But it's like, it's really like changed my relationship to my dad, who's luckily still here, but not for very long. And
I'm
my
sorry
mom's
to hear that, buddy.
Well, thanks. Don't be. It's a great thing because, like I said, now we're talking more than ever. And my mom is in town because of my fucking broken foot, so I'm like, seeing my mom every day, which is nice too. So.
Don't wait for your family members to
die.
Turn into
That's
ghosts.
Yes.
Connect with them now.
Hug them now. Get a real hug in there before they have to do ghost hugs and shit.
Well, thank you, Joy. Thanks for writing.
Joy.
In.
Appreciate the email.
This is from a new friend that I met this weekend in Springfield, Missouri.
Ooh.
Her name is Marlena. Hi, guys. My story is about Morse Mill, which is an old 1800s hotel 40 minutes outside of St. Louis, Missouri. It has some crazy history. Al Capone, Bertha Gifford, first female serial killer, and Jesse James all supposedly stayed there. It's also supposedly very haunted. When I visited the hotel in the middle when I visited it, the hotel was in the middle of rehab because it had a really bad drug habit it was trying to kick. I mean, that opioid crisis is it's serious.
The real deal.
It's the real deal. And it was still pretty worn down, so it was pretty creepy looking. Immediately after getting out of the car, I felt someone was staring at me from the upstairs balcony. I kept looking up there, but there was no one there. Later in the night, we ended up in that room with the balcony, and apparently there's a ghost of a young girl, again, here we go, that lives there that really liked kids. I was 15 at the time, so the tour guide suggested I hold the EMF detector as we talked to her. We hadn't had any activity up to that point, but immediately when I held the EMF, I started to feel cold. The tour guide talked to the little girl for a bit and rearranged her toys, but when I said hi, the meter suddenly lit up. I tested it around different areas and passed the detector to other people, but it only lit up when I held it. I swear it felt like someone was standing next to me the entire time, but no one was. It was a warm kind of presence, though, and I totally think they're right about the ghost being a child. It was much friendlier than the other encounter we had.
Wow.
It happened again later that night with a different ghost, which was one of the scariest things I think has ever happened to me. We were in the creepy basement, original stone, and just dark and wet and generally unsettling. And it was pitch black. I was sitting down because it was late and I was tired, and the group was just idly talking to one another, when suddenly I felt like someone had walked up behind me. My shoulders were cold, but I didn't turn around because I knew everyone in the room was in front of me. I felt the chills creep up my neck, but then it started moving from one shoulder to the other, like someone was touching me. I tried not to draw attention to it because no one else seemed to notice, but when I grabbed the EMF detector from the table and put it on my shoulder, the meter lit up red. The craziest part was whenever I felt the cold move from shoulder to shoulder, the meter reflected that, and I would move it from shoulder to shoulder to watch it light up. I never felt... It never felt threatening exactly, but it definitely in my mind felt like an older man just touching my shoulders, which isn't a comforting feeling at 15. There was a ton of other stuff that night. Footsteps, something small was thrown in the basement as we tried to leave. It was my first and still my best encounter with ghosts. If you ever get the chance to check it out, you really should.
Wow.
It's Marlena. Thank you.
You know what this reminds me of? Have you seen this movie? And I got it as a screener. It's called Ghost Story with Casey Affleck and Mara.
With the one with the ghost with the
Rooney
plastic
Mara.
sheet over his head.
It's new out. It is so good. I mean, I think it'll shed a lot of light on how these ghosts might operate, because it is, like you said, like we're on a linear time scale. This man-made construct. Him is. I don't want to give too much away, but this ghost's sense of time is totally different than what we would expect, and so that's how things seem to be intermingling with the world we're living in.
Yeah.
And I recommend it highly. It's called Ghost Story with Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara.
Cool.
It was wonderful.
Now, Kevin, you've had experience with unsolicited neck rubs as a 15-year-old child. What's your take on this story?
Oh, God. You know what, Marlena? Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it.
I mean, how often do we get neck rubs?
Yeah, from a ghost. Yeah. Would you mean to talk about the elderly man that kissed me when I was a kid? Or what or do you want to talk about
creepy dark basements?
I forgot about the elderly man that kissed you story.
It was a little mouth kiss from an old family friend.
Oh my God. I got mouth kissed by a big, black, beautiful singing man. He was he wanted to sing to me, and I said, yeah, that seems normal. And he puts on some Luther Vandross type show. And then I was like, that's a great voice. And then boom, went right in for the kiss. And I was like, oh my God.
Riley,
I like that he actually romanced you a little bit.
It was,
put some effort into it.
Riley, when was the first time a grown man kissed you as a child?
We shouldn't be laughing at this, I guess, but.
Listen, guys, if we don't laugh, we'll never get through it.
No, it's true. It's very true.
Anyway. We're joking.
Sidebar there.
It's, it's funny, time and time again, I feel like it's so strange that a lot of people say, I don't believe in ghosts, but we just have, most of these emails that we get are about ghostly encounters. So is that just people hearing weird noises and feeling drafts and mistaking it for something supernatural? Or is the ghost population exploding and people are, we're closer to the spiritual realm than we actually think?
I think you're onto something there. I think we're all a lot closer to the spiritual realm than a lot of us even realize,
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're human receptors. I think we're an antenna, and if you're tuned in to the right station, well, you may get the right radio show,
The thing I like about this story too is that she had the meter and it was reflecting what she was feeling.
Yeah, now that's a scientific tool. That's EMF. I guess that's electromagnetic field indicator or radiator.
Yeah,
or
Donna
whatever.
Lynn on her episode was talking about they were using those at night.
Well, that's an EVP. She had an EVP.
But she also had one of those meters walking around too.
Right. So yeah, an EVP is when you leave like an open microphone because like Riley was saying, there's just stuff we won't pick up that a microphone will. And that's called EVP, which is electronic voice phenomena. And that is some incredible evidence, because if you want to hear ghost voices, just Google EVP, because that's what they sound like. That's not just a microphone picking up bullshit ambient noise. That's real stuff.
Well, now, was it a hotel that Kevin Kirkpatrick was staying in? Because
we've got to go do an episode over at your place now.
We had some, we were approached, when I say we, the Groundlings Theater was approached couple years ago by some group of, I don't know if it was a part of podcast or a TV show, but it wasn't one of the major TV shows, I don't think. Maybe it was. But anyway, to come and look for ghosts overnight in our theater.
Oh, I bet
And they brought all
there's-
their equipment and all
Right.
this kind of stuff. And all I ever heard was that they did find some heavy activity in certain areas.
Did you ever feel anything at the Groundlings, or
I have not, but just you got to get Edie on the show.
Oh
She's
yeah,
someone-
we'd love to. Edie Patterson, we'd
someone-
love to have
Oh,
her.
great.
We had this conversation the other night after the show, and she's one of those people who has brushed against the other world a number of times in her
Oh,
life.
man,
Like,
we
I'm the
gotta
guy
get
who's
her.
like, I don't got these stories.
yeah?
But like, but yeah, just the other night, two of the ladies that are in this current cast in the dressing room, no one else was around, and one of them was like hearing this really weird sound, like a man going like,
It's the
and-
future ghost of Louis C.K.
yeah.
jerking off in the plants.
And she,
I think that was Harvey Weinstein.
And she was like,
Sorry.
"Oh my
I get them
God."
all confused.
she was like, "Oh my God!" And then right then the other girl had come through, and she was like, "Did you just hear that?" She goes, "Yes, I thought that was you in here doing some weird character voice to me." And they're like, "What was that?" And weirdly, the Groundlings has been here since the early '70s.
Just for
Prior
our
to-
audience, yeah, the Groundlings is like, you know, the improv comedy guru mecca here in Los Angeles. Everybody has come here to study there,
And the theater has been there at this location for a long time, like I said, since the '70s. And before that, it was some kind of shady, happy ending massage parlor or something. So that guy could be like a ghost of some dude that was like having this gorgeous Korean woman like finish him off.
yeah, right, like weird, just totally
Yeah.
like
That's quite an afterlife, really.
Yeah.
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 Just living
Over
that
and
moment
over.
forever.
I bet there's a max though. I bet at some point you're like, okay, I can't.
Instead
keep
of a haunting, it's,
orgasming.
yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, if you can be like tortured in the underworld, maybe you can like you also leave sort of an orgasmic imprint as well, like
Yeah.
for future.
Maybe he died getting a happy ending.
Yeah.
He's frozen.
You know
in
what would
that
be great
moment
though is
forever.
if we could sort of zero in on the common denominator of what's causing, you know, all these people to have these experiences. Is it the place? Is it the location, or is it the person experiencing? Is there, you know, I
I
mean,
know everyone always we look at it through the frame of it's the place.
right.
But what if there's something else?
I think you bring a lot to it, the person who's experiencing the thing, just as much as the place. You know what I mean? Who knows? But
Maybe it's the time or something with energy. Or
yes,
like
there's
who
a
it
time and
is or
place for
whatever.
everything. You know, so who knows?
Because every place probably has a history. So
Well, that's right. That's what you'll love in Ghost Story. Is
Kevin,
it just
that's
goes
your
through-
motto, isn't it? Every place has a history.
Every
Yeah.
place has a history.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You'll love that in Ghost Story because that's what they point out to. The house come and goes. He's still there, you know. It's really interesting. Well, thank you so much for sending these emails. These are great. I mean, we'll keep doing this because we enjoy doing the listener emails and stuff.
Yeah, keep writing in BigfootCollectorsClub@gmail.com. That's the 8th time I've said that
Yeah.
on this podcast.
Yeah.
But we love getting stories, and we've got a couple more. So if you didn't hear yours, if you've written in and you haven't heard yours yet, we'll get
We'll
to
get
it.
to them. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. And trying to think anything else we need to. Kevin, what are you up to? Anything you want to plug?
Come see this Groundling show if this podcast will air.
This will be a couple weeks.
Yeah. I directed the show at the Groundlings, and they're all so funny. And
What's
it's
the
a
name of
really
the
fun
show?
It's called Sweet Valley Groundlings.
Ooh, after the Sweet Valley Twins or Sweet Valley
Uh-huh.
High? Nice.
The names of our shows don't ever. They're all kind of random, but that's what it's called, and it's some really funny sketches.
And that runs from when to when?
It's running now, and we close in like 10 weeks from
Okay.
now. So
And
Oh,
bring
wow.
a
I should know
scarf
the
and some
date.
protective shoulder wear in case you get a neck rub from a creepy.
That was one of my first jobs. I was an extra on Sweet Valley High.
really,
Yes, and I got bumped up to like Jock who could go woo woo woo. So I was like, yeah, I'm Jock now. They gave me a leather jacket and everything. But
Nice.
oh my god, I was fascinated with those twins.
Riley, you got any plugs?
Yeah, I'm playing in a psychedelic western band called Spindrift.
Oh fuck yeah,
Hey, do
psychedelic
you-
western.
Check
What
that out.
Do
Hell
you-
yeah.
So, does your band ever play at Harvard and Stone
Uh huh. It happens. It's been known to
on the
happen.
honky tonk night?
It's a distinct possibility.
Ooh.
I've been sort of in and out of that band.
Okay.
I'm a producer for it.
I
and
saw a really fun sort of alt country band. at
I'm so
Honky
into
Tonk Night
country.
at-
Yeah, especially honky tonk. That's
Uh-huh.
awesome.
There's a honky tonk night on Sunday nights, maybe, or something at,
Let's
at
go.
Harvard and Stone.
I can almost
It's really
guarantee it's
fun.
someone I know because it's a pretty small scene.
When
Yeah.
are you playing?
This weekend we're playing out at Pappy and Harriet's in Joshua Tree,
Well,
the
we'll
old
they'll-
Western town.
Anything
wow.
coming up mid to late February?
Oh yeah, because we're in a time machine, right?
Yeah.
Probably. Look it up. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not
See,
very
there you
good at
go.
Spindrift.
Time, a BCC made construct.
Yeah, see, it's whatever time we
We're
want
on
it to
our
be.
own time wave.
That's right.
Yeah.
We are sort of time traveling
So
doing this show.
strange.
It's true.
Well, awesome.
That's
What a-
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, what about all this? Have you guys been seeing all these new Mothman sightings happening around Chicago?
I
and
did
the
read about
Midwest?
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool.
Very wild.
Exciting.
I haven't really dug in, but
Maybe we'll
Mothman's
next
back.
episode we'll open with a little paranormal news and,
Yeah.
and catch everybody up
I
on
think that would be great.
Mothman action that's happening
No,
in
very-
Chicago right now.
Very strange.
I don't know anything about.
There's a mysterious winged creature being seen
So in Point Pleasant, West Virginia,
flying around Chicago right
in
now.
the '60s, a couple went to an old factory where they saw a winged creature land on the
With
hood of
red
their
eyes.
car, red eyes, flap its wings and fly off. The couple other towns,
A man-sized creature?
a man-sized creature, larger than a man, with wings that flew away. Looked like a moth. They called it Mothman. A couple other townsfolk saw it too. Well, about a month later, the bridge in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, collapses, killing, a
On
lot
Christmas
of people.
Eve.
On Christmas Eve, fell into the icy river. So Mothman became a harbinger of doom. But what I've been reading about, a little bit about the Mothman, is that a lot of people seem to think that it's flipped, that it seems to be some sort of harbinger of maybe good news.
Kevin, here's a
this
picture
time.
of Mothman, and we'll put this up on our, in our
Yeah.
show notes or.
But
Instagram.
anyway, so after that happened, after the bridge collapsed, nobody had ever saw Mothman again. It just, as soon as it came,
That's a
it
dumb
went.
picture.
Well, it's just a drawing.
Right. So he
It's an
disappeared off
interpretation.
the current events
no-
calendar, and he shows up back again in 2018. So this has been since the 60s. So it's very rare.
The classic.
It's a classic, and he's back. And a lot of people think it might be good news this time.
Here's a statue of the
So-
Mothman. Kevin, you might like his torso. I'm not sure. He's in very good shape.
Yeah.
That's the statue of Mothman in Point Pleasant.
But it's interesting. The area
yeah, he's
is
scary
Chicago.
looking.
I mean, talk about a town fraught with like gun violence and unsurety.
No kidding.
My God, what a place to show up. I'll be keeping my eyes peeled and ears.
I'm
open to-
hoping it's like a superhero, like the Batman, where people are just thinking, like when people thought that Batman was just a giant bat for a while.
Right.
Maybe it's some people think it's a moth creature, but it's really the Mothman.
man.
So you're
who's
saying
a
it's Elon
superhero.
Musk?
It's probably, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I keep thinking about this couple in their car in the 60s.
Yeah.
Like,
They were traumatized by it.
what's your, like...
They went there to make out.
crazy.
They went there to make out, do some hanky panky.
Yeah, it was like an old, and
An old coal
Like
factory.
Yeah,
Marlena got, my left shoulder was cold. These were like a giant Mothman.
Yeah.
Landed on my hood.
Listen,
He's still trying to get some after. All right, well, it went. Am I going
You're-
to get some titty or what?
But did I tell you,
you
how the
can't,
cold
you
went from
can't
that
hit a
shoulder
home
to
run
this
every
one? It was
time
terrifying.
you go out. Can't hit a homer every time.
man.
Sometimes you just hit a single.
Where are those listener emails? Like, let's hear about.
Yes.
Let's hear about people who've
If you've witnessed
had
that-
a creature land on the hood.
Yeah,
of
we want
their
some
car.
creature
here's
sightings.
here's a new APB.
And evidence. We want evidence.
Yes, if you've seen Mothman or if you have a Mothman sighting, we want to hear about
yeah,
it.
guys,
Email us.
If I know we have some listeners in Chicago, write in. Tell us about your experience with the
Yeah.
Mothman.
And what's great about this time is it's happening in a city and urban area with tons of witnesses.
Yeah, there's
not just
a,
a couple in a car. Now there's like 25, 40 witnesses at a time.
There's
There's
a
a
Why
lot
aren't
of
they
accounts.
filming this? I mean, like these days, anyone who acts the least bit strange on
That's
the
a
subway
great.
gets
Yes,
like
so we should Google
an
that.
8-minute
Vice.com
YouTube
wrote an
video.
article about
great
it.
point.
I'll
It's a
I'll
great
put the
point.
link to the article in Vice on our show notes. But there is a
On that point, I wouldn't be surprised if civvies are getting all kinds of photos, videos. I bet that we just got to look them up.
What's a civvy?
Civilian.
look. Check this out.
Are you military?
No.
It's paranormal slang.
Fucking
Civies.
poser.
Look. Here's a photo of the Chicago Mothman. Here's a photo right here.
That's where that saying comes from. I got to get my civvies. My
Look, here's a
regular,
photo of it.
I'm with you.
That's supposed to be a photo of that somebody snapped of, and it links to a YouTube video that I have to watch and verify. But there's an image of some weird winged creature
Right.
flying over Chicago.
Very interesting.
So yeah, I'll put the link to that up. But there is it's not Lauren Coleman. I can't remember who it is, but there is a cryptozoologist digging around and talking to people in Chicago and
great.
collecting all these accounts. So I think we're going to learn more in the months to
a
come.
book's coming, I'm sure. Can't wait.
There were 55 sightings of Mothman in Chicago in 2017.
That's a lot.
Yeah, this is pretty cool, and we'll dig into this a little bit too because it's rare that there's something like this currently happening.
Yeah, this is huge.
So yeah, we need to spend a little more time on this.
Yeah, we will.
The
Stay
Mothman
tuned.
reports.
Yes.
Okay.
Coming.
Thanks,
up
guys.
soon.
As always, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Yep.
Next week, we'll come back with another one of our regular episodes. We have a great guest coming in. We'll keep that a secret until the time is.
Thank you so much for our first
appropriate.
return guest, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome
Always
back
fun.
anytime.
Come back anytime.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll read some more emails,
Yeah.
and maybe we'll.
We love having you here.
We're gonna discuss about. We're planning. Write in if you would support a Patreon. Let us know if you are interested in getting
Sure.
some T-shirts.
Or is that
stuff
insulting? Let us know.
Like that. No. Bryce, attitude, eye roll.
No,
Well, if it's
no, I mean,
insulting.
people. When
No,
you
but
ask for-
what would you? What kind of exclusive stuff would
Yeah.
you guys want? We want
Exactly.
to make. This is a club. We want you guys
Listen,
to get.
we think of Patreon as a way of involving our listeners that's unique to us. I mean, offering something that, that is just goes a little bit above and beyond. That's all.
So we're going to start putting that together this spring.
Yeah.
We got some really cool guests coming up too. And maybe we'll come over. I'll do a whole a thing at
Yeah.
Kevin's house, and
Well,
maybe
that'd be
we'll
cool.
record it. I'm there, dude. I'm not
there
scared
too.
of crosses.
No, hell no.
Okay.
We're there. Done.
We're gonna clean that bitch up.
Yeah. I'll bring my teddy bear. Well, special shout out to all the listeners. And we've been going through the Instagram messages and the Facebook messages. And it means a lot when you guys comment and like and we
keep it
look
up.
at all that stuff. Every day I check it. So
yeah,
I
and
know
guys-
Mike does too.
Please share the show with your friends and rate, reviews, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. As always, thanks to Riley for our sound
Thank you,
and
Riley.
to the band Sun Eaters for our song "Come Alone," courtesy of Lotus Pool Records.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Say
Bye,
goodnight, Kevin.
everybody.
Bye.
That was on tone.